So basically, I was wrong about every single point in this video. Yay! Let me show you where I was coming from, what I was experiencing on a real project file, and then where I went wrong. This is the project for fading. It's a relatively average size project for me, and it has a lot of latency, a lot of lag in it. That's why I'm gonna use Edison to preview what it sounds like. So this is what it sounds like right now. And like I said, I use Kickstart 2 as my sidechain here with the audio trigger. And something you can also see in this project file is that because of my belief that automation clips lack latency compensation, I avoid making any precisely timed moves whatsoever in my automation, and only these gradual changes that don't require precise syncing. Now let's try out the automation ducking technique here. I'm gonna turn off Kickstart 2 and recopy this under every kick. Let's see what this sounds like. We can hear that the automation is triggering before the kick hits. This is not what I wanted. Now what I did not know, and the commenter told me, was that in the mixer settings, you can enable, under plugin delay compensation, compensate automations. Let's take a listen now. Suddenly, this sounds like a really valid sidechain. I had no idea this option existed, and thank you for pointing it out. You really helped me out here, and I can finally use automation clips again. Apparently, this option is on by default, but I think because I started on older versions of FL Studio where this was a real issue and wasn't a thing, and always carried over my settings when updating, this did not get enabled for me. So actually, I was wrong, and this is a perfectly valid technique. If you do it like this, all power to you. Just make sure you have this thing enabled. But let's check out the other option I recommended. I recommended to use the Flux Mini 2, which is a MIDI triggered effect. That means on every MIDI note, this envelope is gonna trigger. Let's see what this sounds like. You can again hear the sidechain trigger before the kick hits, because MIDI isn't compensated either. It's just as bad as the uncompensated automation. However, this might be a bigger issue, because this method, using MIDI to trigger sidechain, is something I see recommended a lot on pro mixing videos, specifically using Shaperbox. Let's try that out. On Shaperbox 2, we load the sidechain preset, we set MIDI trigger to 1 shot, and in here we set the port. We're gonna have to move this over. It still triggers before the kick hits. So this method is the true wrong thing to do in large projects. However, in Shaperbox version 3, we can use an audio trigger again. We're going to select audio, we're going to select the external sidechain, and as a sidechain input, we're going to have to set the kick. This is now audio triggered again, effectively the same as Kickstart 2. Let's see how this sounds. Very valid sidechain again. So if you use Shaperbox 3, make sure to use the audio trigger, not the MIDI trigger. Yeah, I was wrong about this video. But let's talk more about sidechaining and go more into the artistic side of sidechaining and see how I would use different techniques in different scenarios. So on this kind of track, EDM, I would pretty much always opt to use a Fox sidechain, such as Kickstart 2, Shaperbox, and even the automation technique. A Fox sidechain is not sidechain compression, but a volume envelope that triggers, effectively emulating sidechain compression, but you get a lot more precision and control. You can adjust the curve entirely independent from the input. Generally, I find this to be a lot cleaner in EDM, because for a brief moment, the only thing you hear is the impact of your drums, giving your drums a ton of space and a ton of impact, which is something you really want in EDM, typically at least. The limiter technique is a compressor sidechain and not a Fox sidechain, meaning it doesn't duck the volume entirely. This could lead to less clean results in EDM. Now let's say we have a track like this. It's soft, it's slow, it's not so intense, and has a kind of natural feel to it. A Fox sidechain doesn't really complement this natural vibe in my opinion. It sounds very out of place. Let's hear it. The kick and snare are now very present in the mix, but it takes away from the piano. The kick really isn't the main focus here. We need something gentler that gives the kick space, but doesn't take away from the other instruments as much. So instead, let's use Pro MB, and we're gonna lower the volume only on the bass frequencies. Let's hear it without. And now with. I'm gonna switch between them, and you pay attention to the low end of the kick. With it on, the kick sounds a bit more well positioned in the mix. It doesn't clash with the bass because the bass is lowered, but it also doesn't interfere with the piano. The piano stays in focus. This is what it's really good for. Now let's look at metal, for example. This is a track that's never gonna come out. On this guitar, I use 2 instances of Pro C2 for sidechaining. One for the kick and one for the snare. I do this because I want the guitar to still be present in the mix, but still giving room and impact to the drums. On the kick, I cut out the low end because I only want the transient, and the snare has slightly different settings. This is not the final mix, by the way, just a demo. I'm aware this sounds really bad. Basically, I do this because I want room for the drums without the heavy EDM sidechaining or taking away the guitar's impact as well. Now, this project is actually a demo for another really useful kind of sidechaining. Basically, we have 2 elements, the guitar and this lead that comes in later. Notice where the lead is present. Mainly in these upper mid regions right here. Notice where the guitar is present. In that same region, they are gonna clash. We can't do this cut on the guitar because earlier, before the lead comes in, we want the guitar to have these frequencies and be present in this region. It is only when the lead comes in that we're gonna have to tame this a bit. So we do this. We do a dynamic band and then expand it right here and select the external sidechain option. Then just sidechain the lead to it. This is gonna suck now, it's a bad example. But in Pro Q4, you can enable the spectral option right here. Yeah, this sucks. But Pro Q4 basically figures out the resonances in the source material and takes them away from this sound. Previously, this was done using the Soothe sidechain, which is also really fun to mess around with. We can even take this a step further and, for example, only take out the side information from the guitars. So it stays present in the middle, but now the lead can take up all the side information and be really, really wide. You can make all sorts of fancy setups that react to each other and make some really dynamic mixes with this. I recommend giving this a try. Another thing where compression sidechaining can come in really useful is ducking the reverb tail or delay tail of a vocal or instrument while it's playing and only bringing it up when it's quieter, so it doesn't clash with the vocal or get all muddy and stuff. Let's take a listen to this. This is it without sidechain, just the normal effects. This sounds really terrible because it's overwhelming the vocal a lot. But what if you want that really long and spacious tail, but with a clean vocal? Well, then you can use the sidechain compressor to duck all this delay and reverb while the vocal is playing. You get me high. You give me all that I need. You get me high. This also works with the photolimiter technique. I just like the attack and release settings here. My favorite free delay plugin, Delay, has an option for this called Duck, which is really nice to clean up the signal. But let's go beyond volume. Why limit ourselves? Use your sidechain input to modulate a filter cutoff. You get me high. You give me all that I need. What if we sidechain a reverb?
You give me all that I need. You get me high, but I know you will set me free.
That sounds funky, doesn't it? All sorts of creativity to be explored using sidechain. So share your sidechain techniques in the comments. I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna respond. Yeah, have fun.